He wasn't tall, he wasn't muscular, and he wasn't noble. But when he stepped into the ring, he did the impossible. He turned violence into art. In 18th century London, a city of blood, bets, and brutal prejudice, one man fought not just fists, but history itself. Daniel Mendoza wasn't just a fighter. He was a symbol. A Sephardic Jew, son of Portuguese immigrants, who dared to teach elegance to chaos and strategy to instinct. With every step, every slip, every counter, he rewrote what it meant to fight. This isn't just the story of a boxer. It's the story of a revolutionary in the age of shadows. This is the story of Daniel Mendoza. Daniel was born in 1764 in Aldgate, a poor neighborhood of London, home to immigrants and the invisible. His parents were Portuguese Sephardic Jews, outsiders in a country that barely tolerated them. Being Jewish was already enough to be excluded. Being poor meant being ignored entirely. Boxing didn't come to Mendoza as a sport. It came as survival. In crowded fairs and back alleys, boys fought for food, for pride, for fear. That's where Mendoza found something unexpected. He didn't just fight, he thought. And that, above all, would set him apart. While others led with rage, Mendoza led with rhythm. He was agile, light on his feet, and most of all, unpredictable. His punches weren't just blows. They were responses. In a time when boxing was little more than savage endurance, Mendoza brought something unheard of: strategy. He would retreat, slip, wait, then strike with surgical precision. His movements confused the brawlers who underestimated him. They were bigger, stronger, louder, but one by one, they fell. And the crowds began to realize. They weren't watching violence anymore. They were witnessing science. As his victories piled up, Mendoza became a sensation. But his genius extended far beyond the ring. He wrote, he taught, he demonstrated. In 1789, he published The Art of Boxing, a guide that turned chaos into logic, instinct into principle. Later came The Modern Art of Boxing, refining his vision even further. For the first time, boxing had theory. And Mendoza wasn't just a fighter anymore, he was a teacher. He gave lessons, performed in theaters, was welcomed by nobles. The immigrant boy from Aldgate now educated the sons of the English elite. And for a moment, it seemed like he had overcome everything the world used to hold against him. But fame brings light, and light casts shadows. To many, Mendoza was still an outsider, a Jew among aristocrats, a thinker in a world of brute force. And when he lost a brutal match against gentleman John Jackson, the backlash was swift and sharp. Jackson battered him with power and strategy, and Mendoza went down, both physically and symbolically. Critics claimed he had betrayed his own method. Others simply rejoiced. The order of things, they said, had been restored. He tried to return to form, but the applause had grown cold. The pioneer had become a target, and his fall felt inevitable. His career began to unravel. The fight stopped coming. The debts mounted. He was imprisoned multiple times for unpaid obligations. The man who had taught England to think in the ring now sat alone in jail cells. The crowds that once cheered him turned their backs. He had been a symbol, but symbols fade fast. In a country where his roots still outweighed his achievements, Mendoza was remembered not as a master, but as a cautionary tale. He didn't fall because he failed. He fell because he dared to shine too brightly. But not everything dies in silence. Though Mendoza never fully regained his spotlight, his influence lingered. Other fighters began to adopt his style, his philosophy, his thinking. The sport he helped shape evolved, slowly, but in his direction. Even without official recognition as English champion, his name returned in whispers. The Jewish community saw him not just as a fighter, but as a trailblazer. The manuals he wrote were studied long after his time. Mendoza didn't win every battle, but he won against oblivion. And for a man like him, that was worth more than any belt. He died in 1836, far from the ring, far from the cheers. No statue, no roaring crowd, just silence. But in that silence, something remained. A legacy buried deep in every sidestep, every dodge, every thoughtful strike that came after. Daniel Mendoza didn't want to dominate. He wanted to understand. And that's why, even though time tried to erase him, his fight lives on. Not in fists, but in the mind. Because sometimes, the true champion isn't the one left standing, but the one who changed how everyone else stands.